is our Tuesday yoga class. And I will not be teaching Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday this week. So I will put this video, if it takes, online today along with yesterday's, so that if you'd like these classes again, you could revisit them. All right. In your comfortable seat, let's feel into the room around us and where our body makes contact with the floor, with the block, with the chair. Feel into the temperature in the room. Listen to the sounds. I am, Jory, picturing being home and hearing the trees above my house and the wind and the rain. Notice your own reaction to your environment. And then turn your gaze inward. Turn your senses inward, the practice of pratyahara. And notice how your internal ecosystem is reacting to the external ecosystem. Tune into the breath. And invite yourself today to be breathed. Imagining that someone is offering you your in-breath. And you're offering back your out-breath. And see if you can soften and take in the prana, take in the inhale as a gift, and then offer your breath back out as a gift. On the exhales, see if you can soften so that you can really invite in a three-dimensional deep inhale. I just did a pranayama practice the other day, a private with a family, and it was so wonderful to see all of them breathing together. Sometimes people over effort with the breath. You know how to breathe. You do it when you're not paying attention. So see if you can relax into it. Our bodies are born knowing to breathe with the diaphragm. But stress and trauma can get us to breathe more with the neck and chest accessory muscles. Invite your diaphragm to be the mover of the breath. As you inhale, feel for the diaphragm descending into the abdomen, ballooning down. And as you exhale, feel for the diaphragm mushrooming up under the lungs. No need to try for the largest inhale possible. Before you begin to strain, let the breath go and release the exhale. Find a natural and comfortable rhythm. And then see if you can slow your exhales. If you can relax in to these words from the prophet. And a woman who held a babe against her bosom said, "Speak to us of the children." And he said, "Your children are not your children. They are the sons and daughters of life's longing for itself. They come through you, but not from you. And though they are with you, yet they belong not to you. You may give them your love, but not your thoughts, for they have their own thoughts. You may house their bodies, but not their souls, for their souls dwell in the house of tomorrow, which you cannot visit, not even in your dreams. You may strive to be like them, but seek not to make them like you. For life goes not backward, nor tarries with yesterday. You are the bow from which your children, as living arrows, are sent forth. The archer sees the mark upon the path of the infinite, and he bends you with his might that his arrows may go swift and far. Let your bending in the archer's hand be for gladness, for even as he loves the arrow that flies, so he loves also the bow that is stable. Feel into your own breathing body. For your connection with Earth and the stability that will offer you in the practice today. See if the slowness of your exhale, the awareness of your breath can also ground you and offer you stability. I've been thinking a lot about the young people in our world. I believe they need our stability now, our strength, and our willingness to support their flight. Today, let's see if our practice can support them. Let's inhale our hands to our hearts. Namaste. Okay, let's come to standing. And let's just gently shake the hands and let the fingers go as we gently bounce the knees. See if we can let the vertebrae bounce slightly. Really try to release each thumb bone, each index finger bone, middle, ring, and pinky fingers. Release the bones in the hand, the palm, and the wrists, and the forearm, because all of this is interconnected. Let go the elbow. When we carry a lot of tension in the elbow, it can bring tension into the shoulders. Try to really release the elbow. Release the humerus bone away from the shoulder girdle. And then let's pause and ground the feet and very gently side bend the left ear towards the left shoulder. Now again, remember, those with osteoporosis, you're not cranking bone into bone, but maybe lengthening more towards the left. And lift the right hand palm up, thumb back, and take the thumb back slightly as you turn your gaze towards the floor. Fluid breath. Maybe your gaze comes out over the left shoulder. Find the place where it works for you to open the neck and the shoulder. And then take deep breaths into the stretch. Relaxing on the exhales. And even as we open the body, feeling for the stability in the legs and the feet. And then let's release that side and lengthen the spine before taking the right ear towards the right shoulder. And then lifting the left arm, thumb back, palm up, and taking the thumb back slightly as we look towards the floor. Fluid breath. Perhaps you look over the right shoulder, breathing into the neck, into the shoulder, inviting relaxation on the exhales into your awareness of the hug of gravity. And then let's release back up and roll one shoulder and then the next, and step the feet wider. And remember that we are water as we sway across and roll one shoulder and then the other. Inviting fluid opening back into the upper two corners of the torso. Remembering that for us to lengthen the spine, we do need these shoulders to be open. And then let's take an elbow and follow the elbow wide and back and invite the front chest muscles to open, the pectoralis. So it's a play between coming into a twist with the elbow back and opening side to side and letting the chest be what stretches. And you make a conscious decision of how you want to open the body, and then perhaps lengthen the arm. Fluid breath as you sway and stretch and wake up. Gyrokinetics meets Qigong meets yoga. Fluid breath. Be the raindrop falling from the ponderosa pine. Dance your way down through the needles. And then inhale. Reach both arms up. Stretch the palms skyward. Spread the fingers. And then fist the hands and stretch them open. And fist, bend the knees, look towards the earth, and then reach again. And release the arms down. And let one palm be up, one palm down, and let the hands follow each other like swallows across the body. Perhaps you come into a gentle twist, letting the hands follow each other around, not forcing the twist, but inviting and opening between the vertebrae. And perhaps the heel you're leaning away from lifts off the floor. Invite the whole body to move, fluid. Now be the river that's filling. Let the water flow in waves over the rocks and the logs. And then come back to center. And step one foot forward. Let's step the left foot forward, right foot back in your rock step. And floating your arms up, take your left hand across to your right hip, right hand behind you, and then inhale, open, and exhale, right hand to left hip. Inhale, open. And we gently twist. We're at the beginning of practice. We just invite this kind of slow, fluid movement, opening the body. Feeling in between the shoulder blades, like what's happening in the back spine of the rib cage. How can I invite that to stretch open? And then come back to center and switch right foot forward, left foot back. And bring the right hand across to the left hip. And then left hand across to the right hip. And let your hands flow side to side. Legs stable so the upper body can move and find freedom. It's kind of an offering. The stable part allows the other part to move more freely, like the bow and the arrow. Feel into your own body and notice senses turned inward. Pratyahara. And then step your feet into mountain pose and pause. Really consider where the head of your arm bone is, not curling forward over the heart, not forced back. Find that middle place and ground the tailbone and lift the heart center and lift the low back ribs and breathe three-dimensionally into the torso. And then come to your wall, wherever that is. It might be a little hutch like this, or lift your hands up and then slowly lower the heels. Concentrate on creating space in the waistline as the pelvis descends. And then come up onto the balls of your feet again. Fingers are sticky. Maybe they can even hold on to like a windowsill frame or holding on to the top of the doors here, really letting the pelvis release, letting each rib release so there's space between the vertebrae of the rib cage. And then one more time, lift up. Maybe take the arms a little wider. See if that creates a little more freedom. And slowly lower the heels. Breathe. Breathe a buoyancy into the discs, like you could breathe air into the little bike tires of the discs between the vertebrae. And then keeping the spine long, walk back into your half dog at the wall. Bend your knees and come into a gentle cow at the wall. And then a cat. Bending the knees. Make sure your head and neck are comfortable, maybe even above the arms. And cat and cow a little bit, inviting the spine to unfurl. And then support it from the underside, Mula Bandha and Uddiyana Bandha, and float one foot up behind you. Perhaps come to the fingertips of the hands on the wall. Perhaps lift the hands off. Feel into the strength of your Virabhadrasana 3. And then release the lifted leg, plant it for stability, and float the other leg up. Perhaps come to fingertips, perhaps lift off. Supporting the spine, long neck, shoulders broad. And then lowering the footstep into the wall, hands at shoulder height. Inhale, lengthen the spine up. Release the tailbone broad across the shoulder girdle. Come into your standing cobra. Make sure that you're not bringing your pelvis right against the wall. Keep the groins hollowed away. Nice alignment of your neck, John. Fluid breath. Isometrically pull down with the hands as you lift the heart. We don't flare the front ribs, but use the lower tips of your shoulder blades to stretch the thoracic spine open. Good. And then release and turn to your side. Lift one arm up the wall. Stand your feet 6 to 8 inches away and come onto the balls of your feet again. And then lower the heels, stretching the side body close to the wall, long. And then bring your hip against the wall. Some of you will stay here. Some will use the hand on the inside of the rim to press into the leg, keeping that inside side body long, and then bend away from the wall. Rooting your feet solid into the ground. Make of yourself the bow. Fluid breath. Use your bandhas to keep strength and length along both sides of the spine. This is where your side planks come in. You can find that lift along the side body you're bending towards. And then exhale. Arm back against the wall, step away, and release the arm. And notice the difference, how much you can lengthen one side. And then bring your other arm into the wall, feet 6 to 8 inches away from the wall. Lift the arm up, come onto the balls of your feet, and then slowly lower your heels. Stretch the lower torso, stretch the rib cage, and bring the hip against the wall. The hand towards the inside of the room comes against the leg as maybe you lean off the wall. Leaning off the wall isn't necessary to find the stretch. Breathe up the whole length of the spine. Fluid breath. Stabilizing the posture from the inside. And then exhale back to the wall and release. Mountain pose. Fluid breath. And from mountain, bring your hands to your heart and bend your knees, Utkatasana. Active along the front of the spine, a gentle twist in one direction. Inhale to center, exhale the other direction. Keeping your knees stable over the second metatarsals. The lower body strong for the freedom in the upper body. Feel your feet hug the ground. Invite the breath to create freedom in the torso. And then coming to center, release the arms and remember this idea of opening all the doorways of the joints in the arms, even in the hands. Swing the doors open, opening to possibility of that energy moving through us and beyond us into the future. We inhale, reach skyward. Interlace the fingers, bring the thumbs to the base of the skull, rooting the tailbone. Lift the low ribs, lift the base of the skull. Rest the head into the hands. You don't even have to back bend to get the benefits from this pose. Reach the elbows skyward. Relax the shoulders. Lift the base of the skull. Release the shoulders. Lift the base of the skull. Release the shoulders. Rest the head back. Lift the heart. Root the tailbone. Lift the low rib ring. Lift the heart. Long neck. If you'd like to, front neck flexors activated. Release the hands, arms alongside the ears. Stretch from the feet to the thumb, index finger, middle finger, ring finger, pinky finger. Root to rise. Stretch yourself a little taller. And then exhale, hands to the heart. Release into your mountain pose. Fluid breath. Okay, let's come to sitting for a moment today. We're going to go through Uttanasana Konasana, forward fold, and then we're going to come to Prasarita Padottanasana for both versions of the twist. So sit bones at the front of your chair seat, blocks in front of you. Find that length up your spine. Breathe space between the vertebrae. Stabilize your seat and your feet, and then hinge forward to your blocks. Breathe sky between your vertebrae. This is going to take activating support along the front spine. And let's begin by lengthening as far forward as comfortable. So keeping the knees open, can you bring your hands forward into a wide seated legged for a kind of downward dog? Breathe length into the spine. Now, some of you will still be on blocks higher, working on that length to the spine in the hinge your hips are okay with. You could even bring the chair to face the wall, those of you who are tall, and you could start working here. And then as your hips hinge more, you could walk down the wall. So play with your options in your own body. Okay, you do not have to reach the blocks. Keep breathing space between your vertebrae. Tractioning your hips away from your fingertips. Broaden the shoulders. You may step your blocks wider so the neck can be long out of the shoulder girdle. Keep your feet stable. And then walk your blocks back in to rest beneath your face on whatever height works for you. Some of you may even be on spider fingertips. Let's put the left hand down and float the right shoulder up onto the back ribs. Long spine. And if you'd like, you lift the right wing skyward. Don't let the left knee follow you. Keep the four corners of the left foot stable as you offer freedom to the upper body. Reaching out through your thumb, index, middle, ring, and pinky fingers. Fluid, three-dimensional breath with a slow exhale, stabilizing your awareness in the pose. And then release back down the right wing and float the left shoulder blade onto the back ribs. Check in with your support along the spine. Remember, it's not gripping because we need to open the spine to lift the left wing. Don't let the right knee follow. Ground the outer edge of the right foot. Ground the big toe ball mound. Feel the arch of the right foot. Breathe length along the spine, even as it twists. And then exhale. Release the left wing and float yourselves back up to sitting. And turn your knees to the right, hands to the heart. And you can be kind of at a diagonal in your chair, and if sitting doesn't work, come to standing. Inhale, lengthen the spine. Exhale, slowly twist to the left, bringing the outside of the right hand to the outer edge of the left leg, and open the left arm back. Lead with the head of the arm bone. Let your gaze look out the far left corners of the eyes. Come back to your three-dimensional breath and invite it to massage the spine open. I grew up doing gymnastics where we pushed our bodies pretty hard. So I usually, even now, still have to remind myself, come a little out of the pose. Breathe space between your ribs, between your vertebrae. Be kind to yourself. A fluid breath. Forcing ourselves into positions where we stiffen does not necessarily help the body. Relax at the base of the neck, relax the jaw, and relax the muscles of the face. And then exhale, hands back to the heart, and bring your legs around to the left. And inhale, lengthen the spine. And exhale, begin your twist. Outside of the left hand to the outer edge of the right leg. Right arm opens behind you. Lead with the head of the arm bone. Fluid breath. Can you broaden across the shoulder girdle and release the shoulders away from the neck? Maybe even lifting slightly the base of the skull. Ask yourself, where do I stabilize in this posture? Don't just ask yourself about the physical body landmarks, but also about the breath, your concentration, and energy. And then exhale, hands back to the heart, and release one more time back to center. And open the legs wide, and inhale, lift. And exhale, lift the right arm alongside the left or the right ear. Lengthen the left side body as well, and perhaps you come to your forearm. Stretch long through the thumb, index, middle, ring, and pinky fingers. Press into the left forearm or hand to slightly lift the heart. It's a very gentle twist. Broaden across the shoulder girdle. Keep the back of the neck long. And then perhaps bow, towards the floor, rooting into the feet. Lengthen from the right leg hip crease through each finger. Turn the palm skyward. Turn the palm the other way, earthward and out. Come back to neutral. Use your bandhas to float back up and switch sides. Lengthen out from the hip crease to each finger of the left side, and then broaden across the shoulder girdle and lengthen the left neck. And perhaps come to your right forearm and lift the heart, stretching across the shoulder girdle, supporting it from the back side. Long neck, deep, three-dimensional breath. And then perhaps bowing towards earth. From the hip crease, reach along the back left side body. But don't bring the shoulder up around the ear. Stretch the neck long as well. Fluid breath. And then coming back to neutral. Use your bandhas to float yourself back up and release and roll the shoulders. Okay, now let's come to standing. And you can either use the chair seat or your blocks for your forward fold into your Prasarita Padottanasana. Taking your heels wide, planting from big toe ball mound to pinky toe ball mound. We inhale and lengthen the spine skyward, breathing space between the vertebrae, and hollow the groins back to fold forward. Find your shoulder blades on your back body and release your hands to your blocks. Inhale, lengthen the spine. Exhale, perhaps you go lower and take the blocks forward to come into your wide-legged downward dog. You may be able to reach your fingers over the front edge of the blocks and traction your pelvis back. Some of you may prefer to be at half dog on the wall. Now feel into your shoulder girdle and notice, would it be nicer to take my blocks wide? Feels better to me. And then some of you may be able to rock slightly side to side, stretching each side body a little bit. It's kind of like walking the dog from the other end. So I'm just swaying a little my head towards my right arm and then my left. Pelvis tractioning back. And then draw your blocks or your hand on the seat back under. Left hand on the block, float your right shoulder blade onto the back. Root into the left hand and perhaps lift the right wing broad across the shoulder girdle. Fluid breath. Feel into the energy moving from your pelvis down each leg, from your pelvis along the spine and out each arm. And then exhale. Bring back the right wing and float your left shoulder blade onto the back. Keep your sit bones both reaching back as you lift the wing. Where do you create stability to create opening? Come back to your pranamaya kosha, to the energy body you fill with the breath. One of my teachers talked about those balloons at a carnival where you have the inner balloon and the outer balloon. Breathe into your inner balloon, your pranamaya kosha. And then exhale, release the left wing, ground your feet and float yourself back up to standing. Step your feet together and pause in mountain pose. Think of where your head of your arm bones are in space. Let your hyoid bone rest in and up. Invite the hot air balloon to lift you skyward. Let your feet dangle earthward and just touch the soil. Breathe the doorways of the joints open. Invite the prana to circulate through the whole body. Slow the exhale. Relax where you generally hold tension. Okay, now let's take the chair or the wall or a piece of furniture so that we can come to it for our Parsvottanasana. You may want to first use the wall or the chair and then have blocks. Step your left foot forward, right foot back for your rock step. Ground your feet sit bone distance wide. Place your hands on your pelvic rim and press gently down into the hips with your hands. And imagine rooting your feet deep into the earth, creating stability. And then inhale, float the arms up, lengthen along the front of the spine. Relax the shoulders broad and lengthen the neck up, lifting the head. And fold forward, drawing the right hip crease back. You may be able to press the chair forward or to step back from your wall. Breathe length into the spine. We really keep strong along the front of the spine here. Mula Bandha, Uddiyana Bandha, and Jaladhara Bandha can all help us lengthen the spine. Draw that front leg, that's the left hip crease back. Broad shoulders. Some of you may want to take your hands to the outer edges of the chair, especially those of you with a wider shoulder girdle. Some of you may be able to walk down to blocks. Remember, this coming down is from a hinge at the hip. It's not from a cat curl of the spine, which can press the jelly filling of the donut back. Inhale, length to the spine, stretch to the hamstrings and hips. Ground the outer heel of the back foot so that you do have a lifted inner arch. Breathe into this pose. Breathe your awareness in and modify the pose so that it is healthy for your body. This way we bring stability to our practice. And check in that the knees are not hyperextended before you step back up out of the pose. Reaching skyward, exhale, hands to the heart, mountain pose. Let your mountain pose be taller between each of the poses. We're lengthening our spines. And stabilize by rooting your feet from the pelvis down. Breathe sky between the vertebrae and the ribs. And breathe yourself wide. And then step the right foot forward, left foot back, and rock step. And as you're ready, root from the pelvis down and lift the upper body long. And exhale, fold forward, drawing the front hip crease back. Or reach for your prop and make sure it's supporting length. So if it's a chair, you may be able to push it forward. If it's a wall, walk back from it. Draw the front leg hip crease back. Connect the outer heel of the back foot so you can lift the inner arch. Breathe length along the spine, space between the vertebrae. Let the shoulders come down and wide enough and the head lift enough that you can keep length in the neck. And perhaps you come lower. Don't be in a rush to get lower. Play with moving the body to stretch it open. So my left hip, because of my scoliosis, is much tighter than my right. So I lift my back heel and I do a kind of little circle of my left hip to try to get a little more space in there before I ground. And that's, I'm saying right because that's what it is in my body, but it would be your left heel, the back heel. My front leg gets tight here. So I lift the back leg and I do some circles. I try to stretch open the hip and then I come back down. Some of you may want to bend the front knee, stretch the pelvis back, and then slowly lengthen the knee. But be willing to play a little in the pose. Maybe you swing the pelvis from side to side. Long spine. Notice if you've collapsed into the shoulders. Can you lift under the armpits, lengthen the spine? And then we walk back up out of the pose and lift and bring the hands to the heart and release into mountain pose. Each finger bone dangling in the hands. Grow your roots down from the feet. Breathe sky between the vertebrae. Okay. Let's move now towards our general standing poses on our way to revolved triangle. So you may want the chair or the block to the left side of the back of your mat while we come into Trikonasana through Virabhadrasana and Parsvakonasana. Let's turn the left foot out, lift the right heel back. And inhale, lift your arms. And exhale, bend the left knee, making sure it doesn't come forward of the ankle. Virabhadrasana 2. Remember, your spine is lengthening right out of your pelvis if possible. Turn to look out over your left fingertips and bring the right hand to the back of your head. Rest the head back. Relax the shoulders and open the right arm. Bring the left hand to the left femur, right arm alongside the ear. Parsvakonasana prep. Perhaps you come to your forearm. Perhaps you come to your block. Lengthen the upper side body, keeping the lower side body long as well. Perhaps you rainbow the upper side body a little. And then rooting from the base, float back up to Vira 2, straightening the front leg. Hinge from the front hip and bring your hand to your chair, your block, your shin. Bring it lightly, opening into your triangle pose, Trikonasana. Taking a few fluid breaths into the posture. Perhaps you bring the top arm over the ear, lengthening the upper side body while staying long from hip crease to armpit of the lower side body. Check in that your knees are not hyperextending. Fluid breath. Make an arrow of the spine broad across the shoulder girdles. And then rooting through the pelvis. Exhale, float back up, turning the left leg in and the right foot out. Inhale, star pose. Exhale, bending the front knee, Virabhadrasana 2. Make sure it tracks over your second metatarsal bone. Pause here and bring the left hand behind the head as you look out over the right fingers. Gently lift the base of the skull as you rest your head back and relax your shoulders. Engage a gentle lift of the pelvic floor as you lift the back foot inner arch. Lengthen up the spine as you release the left arm. Straightening the front leg. Bring the left hand to the hip and reach the right arm forward. Lengthen the right side body first and then bring your hand to your prop. Oops, I skipped one. Oh, we'll go back to it. Lift across your left wing, coming into your Trikonasana. Check in that you're not hyperextending the knees, but from the pelvis, You can reach through the leg bones into the feet. Three-dimensional breath, slowing the exhale. Now remember, those of you that are tall, you could have a block on your chair seat. You could have your hand on your wall. You can also stretch the upper arm over the ear. Fluid breath. Broad across the shoulder girdle. Let the neck lengthen out. And then on your next exhale, lift the pelvic floor. Activate your transverse abdominis. Lift yourself up. And bend the front knee again. Right hand to the femur. Left arm alongside the ear. Stretch. And come down to your forearm and lengthen. Check in with your joints. We want them open, but not hyperextended. Fluid breath. And then exhale, bandhas engaged. Float back up to Virya 2, straighten the front leg, and step the feet together. Mountain pose. Okay, let's come now into our revolved triangle. Stepping the right foot forward and the left foot behind your prop. We will be twisting towards the forward leg. The opposite hand will land on the prop. We inhale, lift into our Parsvottanasana prep position, and check in with your back outer heel grounding, the inner arch lifting all the way up the inseam of the leg through the pelvic floor along the spine. Draw the front leg hip crease back as you hinge forward, engaging your bandhas. Bring your left hand to your prop and float your right wing out, right shoulder blade onto the back ribs. Create your long arrow of a spine first before you lift the right wing. Check in with the outer heel of the back foot grounding. Breathe energy from the pelvis out each limb. Breathe energy into the pelvis from each limb. And if you'd like to come lower into the pose, do so and check that the energy can still flow from the pelvis out each limb, out the top of the head, in from each limb to the 3 lower chakras. Feel into the pose and fine tune it. And then release your lifted wing, grounding the legs, float the arms skyward, and exhale, hands to the heart. Mountain pose. Check in with the head of your arm bones, the hyoid bone in the head. Fluid breath. Slowing the exhales. See if you can be right here, right now, instead of already in the next side. And then let's try the other side. Stepping the left foot forward, right foot behind the prop. Rock step. Grounding the feet. Place your hands on your pelvic rim. Press down onto the pelvic rim and imagine that you can root the feet deep into the earth. And then inhale as you lift the arms, lengthen the spine. This doesn't mean bring the shoulders up to the ears, broad across the shoulders. Can you lengthen through the arms and the neck? Exhale, draw the left hip crease back as the right hand comes down to your prop and twist towards the front left leg, lifting your left wing. Fluid breath. Drawing that front leg hip crease back to keep that side body long. Beautiful. Fluid breath. I really like how people are being careful how far they go into the twists, feeling into your own bodies. Good. John, I put a block on that chair. That might give you just a little bit more height for a little bit more opening. You're just so tall. Beautiful. Make sure you're feeling along the whole spine and you don't feel like you're kinking, twisting just in one point. And then exhale, release the lifted arm. Yeah, John, that looks good. And come back down. Pause in your mountain pose after you've lifted skyward and stepped together. Fluid breath. Okay, so let's come back to sitting. You can be sitting on a chair or on a bolster for your Marichyasana. We've done quite a few forward folds to get us ready for these seated forward folds with twists. Now, if this doesn't look like it's going to feel good in your body, then feel free to do any of the previous standing poses again, okay? Those are all good lead ups to this, and if this just feels like too much compression, don't do it. So let's put the left foot on the blocks and extend the right leg long. And bring a hand between the two femur bones, the inner thighs. Make sure you have space there. And then we sit the sit bones pretty far up on the chair. And we make sure the foot isn't tucked way back. And we inhale and we lift the side bodies long, rooting into our seat, rooting into our feet. We exhale and hinge forward. Now this front hand can come just to the left femur bone, and we can lengthen here in a forward fold. Okay, and some of you may stay here with your lift of the pelvic floor, your lift in and up along the front of the spine and through the pelvis, a release of the shoulders. Some of you may prefer to lengthen the left arm out again and bring it down to the inside of the left leg, pressing against the leg and the blocks, with the left knee pressing into the arm, and release the right arm and float the right shoulder blade onto the back, and lift the right arm. Fluid breath. You're twisting into what's called Marichyasana. Really find the points where you ground to create the freedom in the pose. Fluid breath. Three-dimensional breath. And then exhale. Release the lifted wing. Reach for the sky. Exhale. Hands through the heart. And we'll switch sides. So if you're on the floor, you may want a blanket support under your knee, your outstretched knee. So then we'll lengthen the left leg this time and draw the right foot in. Even on the floor, we make sure we have space between the inner thighs. And we inhale and lift skyward. And some of us exhale, hinge forward, and we pause here. You could even have blocks forward of you if you're on the floor, and just pause here with your long spine. It's a great hip opener because it's a bit asymmetrical. It'll help you open your forward folds. This knee may want to fall out. Draw the right knee in towards the torso. If you want to go farther than this hinge, we come more forward in our forward fold. And on the floor, you may be able to wrap your right arm around the shin, floating the left arm skyward. Or you could bring a block in and rest your forearm on the block. That may feel like it's a little less compression, more lengthening, more opening. Feels better right now in my body. I think I would come into the clasp after doing this more open pose. Really hug the right knee in. Take a few more breaths. And then release the left wing and unhinge. Okay, let's try each side one more time, whether you're on the chair or the floor, so that you get to just feel into it again. If you're on the floor and you want to go into the full clasp, reach for your yoga strap and just place it behind your back so that both hands will be able to find it. So we will lengthen the right leg again. If you're on the floor, you may want a block or a blanket under your knee so it doesn't hyperextend. We make sure there's space between the legs either place, and we inhale and we lift. And we exhale and we hinge forward. This may be just to here. Okay, I would much rather see someone not cat curling their spine, pressing their hands isometrically down into the blocks to lengthen their spine, and just find a little hinge at the hips with this left knee drawn in towards the body. That's a really nice looking pose, as opposed to the people who just kind of curl their spine forward. This doesn't do anything for opening the hips. It just misaligns the upper body. This builds strength in the upper body and hinges the hips. And then maybe you come a little farther forward or a little farther forward. And here you're hinging from the hips. I'm making sure not to cat curl the spine. And if I get low enough that I can bring my arm around the shin, I do so. And I reach for the strap. My hands face out behind the back. And I lift the right shoulder. And I may turn my gaze towards the right shoulder, keeping the bandhas active. Fluid breath. Let me come take a look. Yes. Yeah. Make sure that you're not compromising the health of your body to get into the clasp. Good. Fluid breath. These look good. Long spines. Exhale and release. Okay. So one thing I'm seeing is when you come here, try to release the shoulder down before you come into the twist. And remember, you can use the head of the arm bone back into the leg bone instead of having the leg bone force the shoulder forward into the rotator cuff. So just be aware of that placement. And let's try the other side. So if you're on the chair, I'll guide that one again. I think we have the blocks under the right foot now, left leg long. We inhale, lift up. And exhale, hinge from the pelvis forward. You can stop anywhere along the way. You could support yourself even by reaching the arms back and holding the back of the chair as you lean forward. You could also bring the right arm down inside the right leg, opening the left wing. Fluid breath. Draw the right knee into the arm. You could be way up here doing this. Even on the chair, you could wrap your arm around your shin and bring the upper wing down, opening across the shoulder girdle. Fluid breath. Marichyasana. Nice open body, Susie. That looks really beautiful. Yeah. As much as you can, hug that knee into the torso. Beautiful. And then let yourselves unwind. And sit up. Wherever you are on bolster or chair, sit for a moment. You can draw your legs in. You could come into a sukhasana or a siddhasana and just pause. Feel into your body after that work. And Sherry, after, this is some shoulder opening work, but it's also some work. So feel free to roll your shoulders a little bit. And then wherever you are, land them at that central place. And again, let the left ear come gently towards the right shoulder. Lift the right arm, thumb up, and take it gently back. Breathe into any tension in this upper trap, in these neck muscles like the scalenes. You could turn your gaze to look down towards the floor, towards the left shoulder. Take the right arm back. And then release the arm and lift the head. And bobble the head a little. And then lengthen the spine and take the right ear towards the right shoulder. Floating the left palm up, thumb back. Turn the gaze towards the right shoulder, and as it's comfortable, take the left thumb back. Find the stretch that's right for you. You may lower the hand and lift it, finding different stretches in different positions. Staying with your fluid ujjayi breath if you like. Stabilizing the nervous system with the fluid breath. And then release your gaze back to neutral, your arm and your head. And again, let the head bobble. Good. Okay, let's come down to the floor. Let's keep our chair or even our wall not too far away so that we can lift with legs up at the end of practice. Legs up the wall is totally welcome, and so is waterfall pose with your legs on the chair. Okay, but first let's do a few supine twists. So bring your bolster in, and you can rest it on the side of the leg you'd like to open out first. Okay, so you choose your side. Lift your foot up into your strap, and other foot is in constructive rest with the knee bent skyward, the foot on the floor, and let your leg pendulum for a moment. If you need a blanket in under your head, bring it. And then lift the leg skyward. Make sure your pelvis feels balanced. Reach up the strap with the same hand of the lifted leg and open the other arm out as a wing. Lengthen the bent knee, straightening the leg along the floor, and release the leg in the strap out to the side. Ground the opposite side body, especially at the low back ribs. Use your core and your myofascial sling awareness. And then when you come to your prop, if it's comfortable, let yourself relax open. Come back to your three-dimensional breath, your lengthened exhale. We create stability in the body, not just through strength, but through toning our nervous system so that we're not anxious and flighty in our mind and heart. One way to tone the nervous system is to relax and ground. One way to do this is to lengthen the exhales. And then we draw in the pelvic floor. We activate the core to lift the leg back to center and take the strap in the opposite hand, bringing the lifted leg hand to the hip crease. Press that sit bone towards the foot of the mat, that femur bone down to release the hip socket. And those of you with scoliosis, this work can be really important because we may be tighter in the hip of the side the lumbar curves towards. Take the foot across the body. Breathe space between your femur and your pelvis. Keep the pelvis on the floor. Those of you with lower back issues, you may want to keep the pelvis on the floor the whole time and pendulum the foot or circle the foot to stretch the hamstrings and the hips. Those of you who'd like to open into a full twist, you may want to take a block out for your shin to rest on. Or you may want to position yourself so your leg can land on a piece of furniture. And then we fold ourselves open and we rest into the twist. Fluid breath. So here you are. If you were standing on the foot that's along the leg that's along the ground, if you were standing on that foot, you'd be in your revolved, what is it? I've lost my languaging. Prasarita Padottanasana. Okay, you'd be in your Padottanasana, standing on one foot, twisting towards the lifted leg. We haven't really done that much. If you were standing on the leg that's twisting over across your body, you'd be in your revolved Ardha Chandrasana. We have done that pose. Bring your hand back to the strap and float the leg back up to the sky. Bend your knee in towards your armpit. If you'd like to, lengthen that leg up beside the head. Fluid breath. Now, if you were standing on the leg down the mat, you'd be in your birds of paradise. Exhale. Bring the leg back up and switch feet in the strap. If you're using your bolster, switch sides with your bolster. And then as you're ready, pendulum. And feel for the femur bone moving in the pelvis without flattening the lumbar curve. Lifting the leg into your chosen position, lengthen the other leg out, open your arm wing to ground on the floor, and then open the leg. Really ground the opposite side body until you get to your prop and can relax. Deep, nourishing breaths into the torso, relaxing the body on the exhales. Relaxing the muscles of the face and the jaw and the neck. Releasing the shoulders, the upper back. And then as you're ready, draw energy up from the pelvic floor. Draw the leg back to center. Switch hands with the strap. Press the femur bone of the lifted leg down the mat as you leave your pelvis on the ground and bring the leg across. And perhaps pendulum the foot. Perhaps circle the foot. Noticing any differences side to side. And if there's a side that's much tighter, maybe you spend 5 or 10 minutes after class coming back to stretch that side. And then we exhale and roll open into the twist if we'd like that. And we rest the arms wide. So these days, I'm resting my shin above the ankle on a block and rolling the upper hip down the mat to keep space between my spine and my curves. It feels better that way. So please feel free to modify towards what's best in your body. The practice does need to be individualized. Fluid breath. Invite them to wash in and wash tension away. Wash in and relax tissue open. And then as you're ready, use the arm of the leg that's twisted across the body to draw that leg back to center. Draw the knee into your armpit. And if you'd like, straighten that leg out beside the head. Fluid breath. Deep breath. Remember, deep does not mean big. Deep means deep into the torso, relaxing before strain. And then exhale back to center. Release the foot. Walk the feet into constructive rest and come into your somatic walking. One side of the pelvis lifts and then the other. We rock back and forth. Fluid breath. And then come back to center and lift one ankle over the opposite knee and draw in just for a moment to your figure four, opening the hips. Fluid breath. Draw into the height of figure four that's best for you. And release and take the other side. Release the knee open before you draw the legs in. Remember, you can use a strap around the femur bone. Fluid breath. And then release and somatic walking. And then pause in constructive rest and relax. And then let's come into our final Shavasana. Okay, so if you're doing legs up the wall, you may want a bolster or a block to put under your pelvis. You may also want to go ahead and strap up your legs. If you're placing your legs on the chair, then go ahead and get your chair ready. If it's cold, you may want to put a blanket across the top of it. You can also use the circle TheraBand around your legs. I think that's easier. My mom's strap doesn't seem to want to lock, so I'm going to tie it shut. Okay. Bring in any blankets or sweaters that you might want. And float yourself up into your position. Remember, you can always lay a folded blanket over your chest, or you can open it up. If you've lifted your pelvis, generally we also don't want to lift the head unless the neck feels like it needs a little support. Because what we're doing is asking the blood and lymph to flow back down the body in the opposite direction, getting the benefits of an inversion for your endocrine system and your lymph system. And we tune into the breath again. Stay with your senses tuned in to the inner landscape. As the rain falls outside, feel into blood and lymph releasing from the toes, through the feet, and down the legs. Imagine a waterfall or a river. Water flowing down, lymph and blood flowing into the bowl of the pelvis. From the bowl of the pelvis to the bowl of the heart. Notice if you can feel your heart beat more easily. Feel blood fill the vessels of the neck and head, bathing the thalamus, the thyroid, the pineal, and the pituitary glands. Nourishing the glands of the endocrine system can help us to balance the hormones released into our bloodstream. The more balanced we are, the more stable we can be, the more stable the bow for the young people we want to support. For a few moments now, let these young people come into your heart and mind. And from right here in this practice, can you offer them love, energy, wishes for their well-being? And then for a few moments, think of ways that you can support them, nourish and nurture and buoy them. If you're comfortable here, you can stay here. If you'd like to release into a simple Shavasana, please do. And let yourself relax deeply into the hug of gravity. No work to do. Your children are not your children. They're the sons and daughters of life's longing for itself. Let your bending in the archer's hand be for gladness. For even as he loves the arrow that flies, so he loves also the bow that is stable.